Hare Krishna, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, verse number 6. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupada Paramahansa Paribrajakachaja Stutara Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srila Haridas Thakur Namacharya Ki Jai Premsika Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gora Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Bhagavad Gita, welcome to the class, chapter 8, verse number 6. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sada sad bhava bhavitaha. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sadatad bhava bhavitaha. Yam yam, whatever. Va, either. Api, also. Smaran, remembering. bhavam, nature, tyajati, give up, ante, at the end, kalevaram, this body, tam tam, similarly, eva, certainly, eti, gets, kunteya, or son of Kunti, sada, always, tad, that, bhava, state of being, bhavitaha, remembering. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The process of changing one's nature at a critical moment of death is here explained. How one can die in the proper state of mind. Maharaj Bharata thought of a deer at the time of death, and so was transferred to that form of life. However, as a deer, Maharaj Bharata could remember his past activities. Of course, the cumulative effect of the thoughts and actions of one's life influence one's thought at the moment of death. Therefore, the actions of this life determines one's future state of being. If one is transcendentally absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not physical. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being to transcendental life. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tantam evaiti konteya sadat bhava bhavitaha. So, just in case we didn't get the message on verse number 5, Antakale Chamameva, Krishna is repeating the message in verse number 6. These are the jewels. These verses are scattered across the Bhagavad Gita. Although the Bhagavad Gita is a complete text of therapy to bring one person from the state of material consciousness to spiritual consciousness, to bring one from the state of confusion to the state of certainty, still, in between this whole process, this complete therapy that Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, many, many jewel verses are put in here and there to encourage the devotee in his practice of devotional service. So especially these two verses that we did Wednesday and today, Antakale, at the moment of death, Smaram Muktva Kalevaram, giving up this body. And again here, Yam Yam Smati Smaram Bhavam Tyajati Ante Kalevaram. Tyajati means to give up, Kalevaram means this body. The key of life, the key of success of life is to be in proper consciousness at the moment of death. There is no question that we all have to face death. Sooner or later, death will come. Death is inevitable as death. And at the moment of death, what determines the next step is our inner desire, our inner nature. Now, at the moment of death is a very, very traumatic and very, very fearful situation. If you speak to people who work with old men and women who work in hospitals and see people die, you will be reassured that the moment of death is not something simple. It is very, very difficult. And because of the great fear of the unknown, we become powerless to pretend any longer. It's just like when the police or the secret agents, they torture someone, then they inflict so much pain and fear into the poor person that he reveals his innermost secrets, just to stop the pain. So in the same way, when we come to the moment of death, just to stop that whole experience, one reveals his true nature. And according to the true nature, one is given a body that mirrors it. I'll give you an example. When I was a young man, I used to visit Bali in Indonesia. And I used to like to swim and surf. But there weren't many people there in those days. Anyhow, I went swimming one day and I didn't realize that there was a very strong undercurrent and I got washed out to sea. I'm a good swimmer, but I wasn't particularly fit. So in the struggle of coming back to shore, I ran out of energy. The waves were heavy, they were dumping me down. I was turning upside down. I began to drink water. I began to run out of breath. And I was thinking, praying, please, please, let me be free from this. And at a certain point, I lost consciousness. And I woke up later on the beach. Somehow the ocean threw me out. Now, when I was, my last minutes of consciousness in the water was simply focused on coming onto that beach. That's all I wanted. I wanted to be on that beach. Even at that time, I had a little knowledge of Krishna. I had begun to meet the devotees of Krishna. I had begun to read Prabhupada's books. I had begun to chant from time to time. Still, all that was forgotten at the moment when I thought I was going to die. Simply, I was meditating on that beach. And if I had died, I am sure I would have taken birth on that beach, but not necessarily as a human being. There are many other animals living on the beach. So this is the example I got. I understood at that time how important it is to be Krishna conscious, even under all circumstances, in all fearful situations. And this is the process of bhakti. The process of bhakti is to bring us to the point of becoming so certain of Krishna's protection, so assured of Krishna's help, that even at the most important moment of the greatest fear, at the moment of death, we will remember Krishna. This is the whole process of Krishna consciousness, that we chant the name of Krishna to associate with him, to get some attraction for Krishna. We study his pastimes and his leelas, and then as we practice, as we connect to Krishna, because don't forget, Krishna is there in the heart. You can connect with it, it is up to you. If you simply stop and stand still, even if you haven't had much training in God consciousness, if you stop and stand still and look inside your heart, you will recognize that there is another presence there. And that presence is manifested in our consciousness and in our the conscience, not consciousness, the conscience. The conscience is what little, that's the little word, the little suggestion we get in our heart when we know we are doing something good and we are doing something bad. That is the little voice, that is the voice of our conscience, tells us, no, don't do this is bad. Do this is good. So this conscious is the manifestation of the Supreme Lord, Paramatma, or the Supreme Soul. Just like my consciousness is the reflection of my existence as a spirit soul. Covering this consciousness is the mind, the intelligence, the ego, and covering that, which is called the subtle body, is the gross body made of the flesh and blood. When the gross body breaks down and dies because of disease, because of old age, because of trauma, whatever reason, when the body breaks down and becomes useless, then the subtle body takes us to another situation. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani grinati naroa parani. Just like when these clothes become old and useless, then we take a new set of clothes. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyati samyati navani dei. In the same way, the dehi, the soul, when the body becomes useless and no more usable, then it gets another body. And this takes place at the moment of death. So the moment of death is crucial. When we take birth, we get a package deal. This body that I have, this European body, my body was given to me in Italy. It is white in color, white skin. Actually, it is pink or gray, but anyhow, white skin. This white body of a man I got as a package deal. And you cannot change the package. Even if you pray to Krishna, Krishna can do anything, obviously. But it does not change the package of your body. But what he does do, he gives you the power, and he gives you the understanding, he gives you the intelligence, he gives you the knowledge and the remembrance to tolerate whatever situation may come along with this package, but keeps you guiding this package towards him, towards Krishna consciousness. So when this package becomes useless at the moment of death, we will remember Krishna, and then yam yam vapi smaram bhavam, whatever we remember, whatever bhav, whatever nature we have. When tyajati ante kalevram, when we give up this body, sada eva bhavita. Krishna says, tam tam eva iti konteya, Madhya Arjuna. Krishna says, sada, sada, always. Tad bhava bhavita. We will go to that nature. In other words, you may act, you may believe in so many things. You may hide your inner nature. You may put your, as we say in English, put your best foot forward. Always present yourself as being a wonderful, nice person, even though inside you may not be. You may be like a tiger or a wild animal. But at the moment of death, you can no longer pretend. There's a nice example also given in the purport here, or Srila Prabhupada in the purport. He speaks about Bharat Maharaj. So who was this Bharata? Bharata Maharaj was the first son of Lord Rishabdev. Lord Rishabdev was an incarnation of God who appeared many, many millions of years ago. He had 100 sons, and he taught his sons the importance of spiritual life. In other words, by teaching his sons, he was teaching us, because we are also sons of God. We are also sons of Rishabdev. So from time to time, Krishna comes in different incarnations. He comes as Raman and Shenga, Ramadi Murtishu Kalani Amenatishnan. Beginning with Raman, he has many, many kala, many, many expansions. Nana avataram, Nana, many, many incarnations are coming. And they all have one thing in common. They come to teach us our relationship with God, which we have forgotten. When Prabhupada first came to London, after the Hare Krishna mantra became a worldwide sensation, and the Beatles were supporting the devotees, when he came to London, there was a huge press conference at the airport, and one reporter asked Prabhupada, so what have you come to do? What have you come to teach? And Prabhupada said, I have come to teach you what you have forgotten, Krishna. Very simple. This is spiritual life. So this Rishabdev had 100 sons, and he taught them in this way. In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is explained. He gathered his 100 sons together, and he was about to leave his kingdom and go to the forest. Going to the forest means to dedicate oneself 100% to spiritual life. It used to be, thousands of years ago, where there wasn't this overburdening technology on the planet, when the planet wasn't being exploited, where people lived on the lap of Mother Nature and in accordance to her laws and her gifts. So people who were interested in meditation and spiritual life, they would move away from the city and they would live in the forest. So the sages, they would gather together in the forest. They would build little hamlets, little ashrams. They would grow vegetables, flowers, tulsi, and they would spend their days in meditation and practicing yoga. So Rishabdev, at the age of 50, 55, he was going to retire from his kingdom and go to the forest. That is the Vedic Varna Ashrama system. We are not Hindus. We are followers of Varna and Ashrama, of four 4 divisions of material life and 4 divisions of spiritual life. The 4 divisions of spiritual life enjoined that at the age of 50, one retires from whatever material situation is in, from his family and business, and goes to the forest. Nowadays, that is not possible, but we can still retire from family life and chant the names of Krishna. We can go and live in a holy place like Vrindavan or Jagannath Puri or Mayapur, and we can dedicate our life. And even if we cannot go and live in a holy place, even in our own house, we can, by chanting the holy name, we create that same environment that thousands of years ago the sages created in the forest. So before leaving his sons, Rishabdev Maharaj gathered them together and he gave them this wonderful instruction. Nayam dehodeya bhajam riloke kashtan kaman harate vidbhujami. My dear sons, Nayam dehodeya bhajan riloke. People in this world shouldn't spend all their time simply taking care of their body. Kashtan kaman, simply satisfying the senses. Vidbhujamye, that can even be done, that can also be done by a hog or a pig. If you live in India or if you travel around India, you'll see that in every town and village, there is a colony of pigs. They live independently on the street. People tolerate them. And the pigs, they satisfy their senses in the same way as men and women satisfy their senses. They're looking for food, they're looking for sex, they're looking for sleep. They're looking for sense enjoyment. So Rishabdev said to his sons, don't waste your life simply for satisfying the senses, because to satisfy the senses, you can get it also in a pig's body or in an animal body. Tapo dibyan putraka, my dear sons, putraka, tapo dibyan, perform austerities aimed at spiritual life. What is an austerity aimed at spiritual life? An austerity aimed at spiritual life is to recognize that everything that comes to you belongs to God, and you should offer it back to Him. You should be recognizing, you should recognize the gift from God, and that offering back to God of our necessity is called yajna. So tapo dibhyam putraka. Why should you perform these austerities for spiritual life? Satyam sudyet, because these austerities purify the heart. What does it mean to purify the heart? To purify the heart means to understand you're not the body. It's to understand you have a relationship with God. It's to understand that whatever material position you create, it is temporary and it will end at the moment of death. So, tapo dibhyam putraka, yena sudyet sadvam. And what is the result of purifying the heart? Brahma sokyam tu anantam. You will get happiness of spirit, spiritual happiness, which is eternal and beyond anything material. Now, isn't that a good proposal? This is what we're looking for. We are Sat Chit Ananda. We are eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. And we are seeking that situation. The very indication that the Sat Chit Ananda level exists is the fact that we hanker for it. We hanker for eternity. We hanker for knowledge. We hanker for bliss, happiness. Why do we hanker for these things? Because they exist within our heart. We may not be able to manifest them, but we know they're there. And the only person who can bring us to this position of Sat Chit Ananda is Krishna. And he can do it because he is the only one who knows exactly how we have got to this point. It's just like when you get lost in the forest. Krishna, because he has followed you throughout the forest, he knows how to bring you back to the point of remembering where you are. You may be lost and forgot how you got lost, but Krishna hasn't forgotten. He's been there as a witness in the heart, and he can adjust the situation to bring you back to your original knowledge. So, of their 100 sons, or Rishabdev, the eldest son, his name was Bharata. So when his father went to the forest, he became the king. He was a young man, and after a few years, he also decided to leave the kingdom. He was only 24 years old. He gave up his wife, he gave up his throne, he gave up his army, his treasury, everything. Because why? Because he was attached to Krishna. Yo dustyajan dara sutan. Dusta means very difficult, and tyajan means to give up. What is difficult to give up? Dara suta, wife and children. Surid, friends. Rajyam, kingdom. These things, wife, children, family, friends, kingdom. Ridish prishaha, they are very, very tight within the heart. And dustyajan, difficult to give up. But Maharaj Bharat, he gave him up as if they were stool. Yavo yuvaivad malavat. Hat jaho means to give up, neglect them, completely neglectfully. Just like in Bengali, if you say to someone, Jao, that means get out of here. Jao. So Jaho, he threw them out. Yuvaiva, even though he was a young man, 24 years old. Yuva Eva. Yuva means young man. And Malavat, he gave them up as if they were untouchable stool. Why? Uttama Shloka Lalasaha. Because of his greed, of his great greed and need to connect with Krishna. So at 24 years, he left his kingdom, left everything that he was attached to, he gave it all up, and he went to live in the forest. Because of that sacrifice, ever since then, the Ilavrita Varsha, which is this plain on which we live, became known as Bharat Varsha. And even today in India, the indigenous name for India is Bharat. So Bharat Maharaj, he went to the forest, and he began to meditate on the Supreme Lord on the bank of the river. And he became very, very advanced. In fact, he was on the edge of becoming fully liberated in love of God when he became attached to a small deer. What happened is that a she deer, a doe, she was pregnant, almost ready to delivery, and she was drinking some water from the river next to the ashram of the sage. And a lion began to roar nearby, and she became so afraid. She was so stricken with fear by the roar of the lion that she gave birth and died. So Bharat Maharaj was sitting nearby, and he saw, so he picked up the newborn deer and he took care of it. He gave it milk, he fed it, in other words, he became the little deer's mother. So they developed a very strong bond of affection. I see sometime on social media, people are very, very much attached to their household pets, so their cats and dogs. And that attachment becomes very, very deep. There's nothing wrong with a cat or a dog. After all, they're also spirit souls. They're also looking for love and affection and protection. The problem is, if we become too attached to an animal, we run the risk of taking birth as an animal. So it gives me pain to see this deep attachment. It's so right to be attached to the cat, and it's okay to be attached to the dog if you understand exactly that that cat and that dog belongs to Krishna. That is the key. You have to put Krishna as the main attachment. Every other attachment should be subsidiary to the attachment of Krishna. So when Bharat Maharaj became attached to the deer, unfortunately his attachment became so strong that he neglected his daily duties of performing sacrifice. Always he was thinking of his deer. And when he died, he took birth as a deer. Because he was so absorbed in the deer, it was like the deer had got lost. He was looking everywhere. Where is he? Where is my deer? And suddenly he died in deer consciousness, and he took birth as a deer. That's the package. But because he was so advanced in spiritual life from the previous life, he remembered that, oh, I've made a mistake. I've become too attached to an animal. Now I've taken the birth of a deer, and I've forgotten my spiritual life. So even as a deer, he didn't move away from the forest. He stayed next to the ashrams of the sages, took Krishna Prasad, and meditated on God. And his next birth, he took birth as a Brahmana, called Jat Bharat. As soon as he grew up as a young boy, he retained his consciousness. He understood his mistake. He understood his progress. So this is Krishna. Although Krishna does not interfere with the package that you get, it's not that Krishna changed the dear body of Bharat Maharaj to a human body immediately. No, he allowed that package to work through to the moment of death. And when he was born as a Brahmin, he remembered. Krishna gives you remembrance. Sarvasya Chaham Ridisani Vishnu. Krishna is in the heart. Matta Smriti. From me, remembrance, Jnanam, knowledge, upon forgetfulness comes. So knowledge and forgetfulness and remembrance comes from Krishna. So Krishna allowed that remembrance of his relationship with him to remain within the heart of Jat Bharat. So Jat Bharat decided, I'm not going to run the risk of becoming attached to this material world again. Therefore, he acted like a fool. He acted like a complete idiot. His father couldn't teach him anything. If his father taught him to eat with the right hand, he would eat with the left hand. If his father taught him some mantras, he would purposely mispronounce them. He became so useless that everybody, Jat Bharat, Jat means he became like a stone, not conscious. And this way he avoided becoming attached, and ultimately he became liberated. So this is the story of Jat Bharat. It is there to teach us how to accept this package deal of this body, to make a good version of a bad bargain. The body is a bad bargain, but we can attenuate that simply by the help of Krishna. Therefore, we need to chant the holy name. We need to take shelter of people who are expert at chanting the holy name. That's why I insist again and again, read Prabhupada's books, chant Prabhupada's names, follow Prabhupada's instructions. He is the power that can take you back home, back to Godhead. If you can remember Prabhupada at the moment of death, if you can remember his instructions, you will not take another material birth. I guarantee. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we have some comments. So Atmavidya has joined us. Thank you. Haribol Prabhu. Hare Krishna from Rob Ealings. Eka Atmaram Manik says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What a wonderful greeting. There are millions and millions of mantras, but this one mantra, Maha Mantra, can fulfill the purpose of all other mantras. Pranjal Joshi, also in the same mood, 1,000 name of Vishnu equal one name of Rama, one name of Ram equal one name of, three names of Ram equal one name of Krishna. This is one of Krishna's excellences, one of his opulences, that his name is so powerful that by chanting his name, you chant 3 names of Rama and 1,000 names of Vishnu but one time. Then we have Madhu Mangala Devidasi, Hare Krishna. My obeisances to all the assembled devotees. Yai, Dandavats to you also. Albert De Vos, also known as Vrishnivamsa. Actually, Vrishnivamsa is also known as Albert De Vos. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purushottam month, according to Pranjal, is more auspicious even than Kartik. I don't know about that, but anyhow, if you chant Hare Krishna, every month is auspicious. Please don't clear nose during session. So what do you want me to do? I cannot, there's no other way to do it. I'm sorry, I'm not a Brahmana like you. Joshi is a Brahmin name, and the Sanskrit spelling is Yasha with a Y, but it's pronounced Joshi. It's a very elevated Brahminical dynasty. In that dynasty, 400,000 years from now, Lord Kalki would appear. It is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Pranjal, you have a good background behind you. Thank you for the instruction. Next time, I don't know what to do. Maybe I can use some water. Madhu Mangala Dasi, is it the same being afraid from disease as being afraid from death? Yes, it is part of Bhaya. Ahar, Nidra, Maitunam, Bhayam. These are the 4 constants of anybody who accepts a material body. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Defending is also known as fearing. It is part of nature. It is used by our leaders to control us, to keep us in fear. If you keep somebody in fear, then you can exploit him. So don't be afraid. Krishna is the key to liberate us from all fear. Fear personified is afraid of Krishna. Krishna says, out of fear of me, the wind blows. Out of fear of me, the sun shines, the moon shines. The seasons follow each other because they're afraid of me. So fear personified stands in fear of Krishna. So if you take shelter of Krishna, by his mercy, you will become fearless. By his mercy, all the perfections of yoga will come to you. By his mercy, you will be completely protected under all circumstances. As I said, Krishna may not change your package deal, your body, and the happiness and distress that come along with the birth of the body. But he will give you the power to tolerate and to transcend the fearfulness that the body gives us by remembering his lotus feet. Thank you very much. Haribol.